Hello, my yarn smithing lovelies yet again. I'm here in my studio in central UK. If you haven't seen me before, I'm Simon Henry, and this is where we gather to talk all things yarn and yarn craft. So today I'm going to be addressing a couple of things. I'm going to look at the most asked questions that were in the comments of last year. Now we're in 2026. Happy New Year, by the way, to all of you. There were a couple of questions that kept cropping up over and over again, and I answered everybody individually on there, but I thought as quite a few people asked the same questions, I would address those. Also, what I'm going to do is, there's a little thing that that's really annoyed me again. Honestly, I'm getting a right miserable old sod. I keep getting things that annoy me. I think the older I get, the less tolerant I am of things. So I'm going to put that right at the end. And one thing that I am going to do, the start of the new year, and I'm going to take you along with me. I'm going to sort out this. This is knitting needles. I've got no idea what's in there. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to sort it all out. I'm going to take you with me on the journey. We'll see what we find. Might be all kinds of things in there. So anyway, to begin, the two questions, they're not particularly connected, that were asked most of all last year was, number one, what was the best merino wool to buy from Temu? And if you've been watching all of last year's videos, you'll see I've done one or two reviews on them, some good, some not so good. So out of all of the merino wool types I've bought on there, this one, I'm going to show the label really closely so you can see it. The problem is with Temu is that every country has its own Temu site, and if I give you the link for this, I know I gave a link to somebody a little while ago for some yarn that I'd bought, some sequin yarn I think it was, that I bought on there, and it took her to a children's pushchair. The link. So every country is its own and the links are slightly different. So I find the best way to do it is to just look at the label, search through your particular site. The UK site, which is where this was from, it's one of the first ones to pop up on there, but this is the label to look for. It's got the sheep there on, and it just says merino wool. It's 100% merino wool. It carries the wool mark, that is certified. I've put it through all of the tests possible. It is what it says it is on the label. And I did have a question from one of my Patreon lovelies that asked, is this enzyme treated? For people who don't know what that is, there are various treatments that yarns can go through that make them smoother, make them softer, make them appear to be other things than kind of what they are. One of the things, do you remember when pashmina scarves were all the rage? It's actually, when you looked at how many there were, there's just not that much cashmere in the world to produce them, and mostly it was various types of wool that were treated. What happens is, when you look at wool under a microscope, it's a bit like human hair. It's got the cuticles that kind of go all the way up. In coarser, rougher types of wool, there are a lot of cuticles, and they're very open. And that's actually perfect if you want to felt it, because these cuticles are like little barbs, if you like, that go up the hair shaft. And when you want to felt, it's those that actually cling together to felt that particular product. when we smooth the cuticle down on the cheaper end or the rougher end, rough wool isn't always cheap. I kind of say that. If you look at wool that we use for, carpets, wool that we use for example, very traditional Aran, that's actually quite coarse. And we actually, they want that when it's washed to actually felt a little bit. So we want that cuticle on there. If we want something that is very smooth and very soft, it's either use a particular breed of sheep, like merino, for example, that don't have so many of those cuticles and those barbs. And actually the cuticle on merino is a little bit longer and sits slightly closer. So therefore it doesn't tangle quite as much. They can do what's called a superwash treatment, which is where the effectively the whole thing is coated and it fills in all the little gaps with chemicals that keep those cuticles closed and really smooth. That's why superwash wool is very difficult to felt, because it hasn't got those barbs and cuticles. Or what they can do is treat it with an enzyme, and it's quite a long process. There are chemical ways of doing it with chlorine. There is enzyme, which is actually much better for the environment. I might do a whole video on that actually at some point. And what happens with that, it effectively eats, the enzymes eat the cuticle off, so the cuticle's no longer there, leaving a very smooth hair shaft. Problem is with that, when that cuticle's gone, the structural integrity of that hair is lessened. So often enzyme treated yarns and chemical treated yarns to do the same thing are often much weaker, and they'll pull apart very, very easily. I will actually, because it's quite a long, that would make a long video, that would, to tell you how that works. I'm gonna do a whole video on that. Anyway, looking at this under a microscope, which I have done, and doing the burn test, doing a dye test, doing everything, I firmly believe this is what it says that it is. So this is the label to look for: merino wool with that sheep on. It has the wool mark on it, and actually it's got all the information on here that most people say that Temu wool doesn't have. So it's got the length, it's got the needle size, it's got washing instructions, and it's got the gauge that it knits up to. This would knit up to, on 4mm needles, let's see, 24 stitches and 30 rows, which is the lighter end of DK. This knits up beautifully, it washes beautifully. I soaked it in water and then put it on a piece of white cotton. This is another test I often do to see if any dye leached from it, and it didn't at all. So this, whilst for Temu it's at the expensive end, it is much cheaper than buying merino from anywhere else. For those that don't know as well, China is the biggest the biggest processor, I'll say, not producer, that's the wrong word, processor of wool into knitting yarn, followed very closely by Turkey. 90% of Australian wool goes over to China to be processed. So mostly it's good gear. There are some ethical issues with some Australian producers. I've spoken about that, but actually we're starting to see a bit of light at the end of that tunnel. I'll do another video on that. So in answer to the question, in my opinion, this particular one, if you can find it, is the best merino wool to buy off Temu. That's question number 1. I'm going to put it with my stash of the other merinos that I actually found when I cleaned out that the other week. So the next question I was asked, which strangely is also about things from Temu. People were really worried. I've had quite a lot of questions about, they've said that all Temu yarn has cancer-causing chemicals. All Temu yarn is from farms and from sheep that aren't ethically raised, and all kinds of things. This is people believing everything that they hear. There have been instances of things like children toys and kitchen products and stuff that have contained dangerous chemicals. As far as I know, there's no proven cases of people buying yarn from Temu that have been dangerous. However, please bear in mind, I buy my yarn from the UK site, and we do have, in all of Europe actually, we do have very strict checks and balances with things that are imported into the country. And there is a person with all imports. Every import has a person that has to take responsibility that all of the things have been checked to make sure that they come up to our standards legally. Other countries might be different. So I'm talking specifically about yarn that I buy from Temu that is imported into the UK. Quite a lot of that yarn now is coming with, and this is where the question comes in, the Ecotech Standard 100 mark on it. So people have been asking, what is Ecotech? What is that all about? Ecotech spelt OEKO-tex. I'll put that up there. The site is ecotex.com. If you want to go there, it tells you all about it. It's a certification that the article concerned, in my case, knitting yarn, the article concerned is harmless to human health. And it says on the site here, I'm just reading this, every thread, button and accessory have been tested against a list of over 1,000 harmful substances. It has to pass all of those tests for it to get the Ecotech mark. They look at the ecology requirements. They look at that it complies with international regulations. It says on there that they review their limit values for harmful substances at least once a year. The reason for that is that there might be very small amounts of substances in there that are considered, in inverted commas, harmful, and regulations change, and the amount allowed kind of comes down. So Ecotech look at those things every year just to make sure that everything is still compliant. So pop over there, have a look at Ecotech. A lot of yarns, that we buy, I had a little flick through my favourite suppliers just to see, and probably 50% of the yarns that I buy on a regular basis have the Ecotech mark on them. It's something now that I'm starting to look at, because they also look at environmental issues and all of those kinds of things. And if it carries the Ecotech mark, it actually does then help me considerably, because I don't have to go and do all of that research myself. They've already done it. So on the Ecotech website, there's a little thing at the end where if you've got something, because this is another question that I was asked, how can they be sure that this is a genuine Ecotex mark? When it's Ecotex standard 100, it comes with a code number, and you can put the code number into that site, and then that will tell you if that's genuine or not and what it relates to. So hopefully that's helped there. Like I've said, quite a lot of yarn now on Temu carries the Ecotex mark. The ones I've bought that have it, I've actually checked, and yes, they are genuine. There was actually, as I was sorting through, there was this yarn that fell off the shelf, and you can see, if I can get it in the label, this is the Ecotex mark, Ecotex standard 100. You'll see there's a number there, and there's also a QR code there, and you can go on there, scan the code, or type the number in, and it will tell you, yes, that's genuine, that does relate to that particular product. So I hope that that has helped. So say they were the two most asked questions. The third one I'm going to go back and do a whole video on, which was again asking about the cashmere yarns on Temu. I'm going to do a whole video again. It became very, very popular buying cashmere from there. Probably half of it wasn't what it said it was. I've actually found a few products that I've had tested that are exactly what they say they are, and I'm going to do a whole video on those at a later date. So that was that. The question that came in this morning was, have I got any unfinished projects? I've got a garage full, actually. Quite often, us as design types, we will start a project, start a design, start working on something, get halfway through and just think, actually, that's not working. And I tend not to unravel those things. They just go in a bag and they'll go in storage, because at some point in the future, I might go through those things and look at them again and go in a different direction with those very things. Sometimes as well, if I'm just searching for inspiration, you know, sometimes we have these, I call them my kind of blank canvas moment, where I've just got no idea what to do next. My Patreon lovelies are actually really good over there. We do make-alongs and knit-alongs and all kinds of things on the Patreon channel. Pop over and have a little look what we do there. And what I actually do with them is ask them, what do you want me to do next? And that's actually really good, because I don't have to think too hard. So apart from those things there, the things that I was actually working on, I do like to actually get everything clear, ready for a new start in the new year. This year is a strange year for me. It's a big year because I'm actually retiring at the end of May. So I'm closing the salon down. I'm closing one of the studios down. That's the couture end. That's where I do the film and television costume design as well. And so I say I'm stopping doing that. My agent did say, is it okay if every now and then, because I do specialise in certain things that not a lot of designers do, or makers for those designers. That's another thing that people don't quite understand about the business. Quite often there'll be a designer on a film or a designer on a television programme, and if you look at the kind of things that they do, especially the things that I do, I specialise in historical and vintage. There are quite a lot of things that perhaps they want to include that they don't personally do, so they'll bring in other specialists. They are still the head designer, but they bring in other specialists, and that tends to be where I fit into those things. And so my agent did say, can we still contact you every now and then? And I've said yes. So, you know, there might be one or two things, but doing that as a business is actually going. That's closing down. The salon is closing down. I've actually been in hairdressing last year, 2025 was my 50th anniversary in hair beauty. Of course, I started when I was 3. Yeah, if you believe that. So it's going to be quite a big year. I'm still going to be doing this YouTube. I'm still going to be looking after my Patreon lovelies. But apart from that, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think I'll still do the patterns, knitting patterns, crochet patterns. We don't earn a huge amount from that. However, that's going to keep the brain ticking over and all that kind of stuff. So, like I said, the Patreon lovelies will keep asking me to do things. I'll show you what we've just done over there. We've just done, this was for a film that I've just been asked to do some stuff for, and the brief was fairly specific. It had to be from a particular period, and it had to be what they call in the 1940s. A lot of knitwear was done with what they called a semi or a half drop shoulder, which is this sleeve specifically, and they were designed to be worn under kind of tight jackets. So because the shoulder dropped a little bit, it didn't bulk up. So they wanted that. They wanted all the pattern diamonds to match. They wanted it in a colour that would, it's a word that we use in the industry, read in black and white. So I'm assuming that part of the filming is going to be in black and white, and part of it's going to be in colour. So this is what I came up with, and actually we did that on the Patreon channel so everybody could see what I was doing and what the actual brief was. And then next we've just finished this. One of my lovelies over there asked me to do some Tunisian crochet, which actually I hadn't done for a little while, so I quite enjoyed doing this. So we did this little French jacket together, and I finished that just before Christmas. So that was done. If you want to pop over to Patreon, you can just sign up as a free member on there and just have a look at some of the things we've done. All the patterns and make-alongs and videos are for paid members only, but it works out at like £1 a week or something. So you know, it's very little for what you get. So pop right over and have a little look at that. So that was that question hopefully answered. So what I'm going to do now, see, I don't know whether to do this as a completely separate video and kind of take you along the whole thing, because I don't even know what's in here. There's so much stuff. Do you know, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change my mind. Like we started off saying right at the beginning I was going to do it today. I'm not. I'm going to actually do a whole separate video. Actually, it's because I've just looked in the bag and I think, do you know, I can't be bothered. I will. That's a New Year's resolution. Resolution. I'm going to sort out that back. So, at the end of the video, things that annoy me. Grumpy old git again. I've had, of course, I've had a bit more hate on on there, and I'm not even going to bother with that. Mostly about how dare I buy wool from China. They're the biggest processors in the world. So mostly, a vast majority of wool that we all knit with actually comes from there. But no, I'm not going to touch on that. So the thing that irritated me this week, I don't know why. I've got no idea. As designers, we use quite often what we call forecasters. So fashion forecasters, colour forecasters will tell us as designers kind of what the trends are going to be, and we then tend to come up with things like that. A lot of people ask, as me from the design point of view, that's for the commercial store end, which I don't do an awful lot of now. I did. Why do all the shops and the major that binky bonky, that's another New Year's resolution. I'm going to remember to turn off the binky bonky before I start filming the video. There are quite a lot of my lovelies that say without the binky bonky on a Sunday it wouldn't be a Simon Henry video. So my darlings, that was for you. I've turned it off now. So anyway, back to what I was saying. So they ask, people ask, how do all the shops come up with a similar thing? Similar styling, similar colours, and all that kind of stuff. And actually, the main reason for that is that 3 years or so before that season, the colour forecasters have come up with the colour that's going to be the colour of that year, and then the fabric manufacturers and the yarn manufacturers work things in that colour, and then we as designers go to those and we buy those things. So we're all buying from the same places, unless you're lucky enough to work for a massive company who have their own forecasters and their own production of everything, yarn, etc. But they'll still come up with very similar things and very similar styling. So this year, Pantone, which are one of the major forecasters, they come up with their colour of the year. So the colour of the year this year is called Cloud Dancer. And this is it. It's kind of white, slightly off white. I think, what on earth? You could have come up with something a bit better than white. I don't know why. It really irritated me. It really did. And it's actually, to be perfectly honest as well, from the point of view of people wearing it as a fashion colour, it's actually a very difficult colour to wear. We're going to have to put something with it, to brighten it, or, to make it a bit more easy to wear. And the thing is, you go out, you brush up against something. Anyway, irritation aside, so I don't know why it irritated me, but when I saw it, I just thought, what on earth is that? Anyway, sorry. So, don't know how long I've been rambling on for today, and I didn't do even what I came on to do, which was sort out the knitting needle bag. I'll do that. I promise. I'll do that next week. I'll go through and I'll have a little look and I'll see what's in there. So in the meantime, my darlings, please like and subscribe, because it really does help out the channel. Every time somebody clicks the subscribe button, it doesn't cost anything, it's completely free. Every time somebody clicks the subscribe button, it tells YouTube that people are interested and they're interacting with me and with the videos, and then they'll put these videos out to more people. Then the channel will grow, and then I'm going to be able to afford to get more stuff in and do a bit more for you after I've retired. So pop over to the Patreon channel, have a little look over there and see what we're doing. Like I said, you can actually join as a free member. It doesn't cost you anything, but if you want access to all the patterns and the videos are on there, it works out at about £1 a week, or I think it's like $5 a month, something along those lines. Different countries have different tax. I know some people have said it was ever so slightly more because they were asked to pay tax on it, but say every country is slightly different. In the UK, I think it works out at £1 a week. So in the meantime, sorry I didn't do what I said I was going to do. Happy yarn smithing. Ever so much love as always. Very happy, safe and healthy new year to all of you, my lovelies. And I'm going to see you really soon. Bye.